Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today at Be Women Weekly webinars to connect, to share on what really is important for us and what really gives us an opportunity to reimagine ourselves, especially in the moments of COVID and the future of how we're gonna grow personally and professionally, and most important, how we're gonna grow as citizens. I'm Laura Jadru Koch, founder of Be Women and lawyer of the state of New York and Argentina, and absolutely passionate about using business as a force for good and markets as well, and issues on gender. So today we have an amazing speaker that is Darya Haitoglou, and she will talk about living through COVID with a great relationship. Darya has helped hundreds and thousands of people to find deep meaning and connections in their personal lives and professional lives. Actually, she's awesome. She has really an amazing trajectory for over 10 years in helping individuals, groups, and doing workshops and retreats in person and online. She is Russian from Siberia and has an incredible aura of experiences with a scholarship in Cambridge University, then in Japan, all in management and business, and also worked for PMG in the brand management side. So Darya has a degree in psychology and is very well known in her practice, not only in Switzerland, but also in the UK. So Darya's mission in life is to help create love-rich, blame-free families, individuals, and also organizations. And with that, I would like to just make a brief introduction of what is Be Women. Be Women is a global network of women entrepreneur and intrapreneur that seek to balance purpose and profits and move towards what is a caring economy. What Darya will talk is about the caring of people in the family. That's so important. And so a caring economy is an economy and a system where people and nature are our top priority. And I think COVID is showing us that people and dignity, respect, collaboration are we need to move forward. Last few seconds before I pass the line to Darya is a Be Women Empowering Move. It's an energizing pose that we say, put your shoulders back, your chin up, your eyes that twinkle with joy and determination, and with a super wide smile that illuminates everybody around you. Darya, the line is all yours.
Oh, how wonderful. I love this introduction, Laura, and the energy. And I would like to thank everybody for the heartbeats. You know, that's a very important time for us to look inward, but also think of ourselves not just as individuals, but as systems. And for me, caring economy and relationship intelligence is very important because two come in together. So I would love to share a few thoughts and generate discussions and ignite the inspiration for people to bring in more relationship intelligence in life, especially now. And I think we will never see anything like we had seen before in the future. You know, it's kind of a game over for the old model of relating. We are building something unprecedented, something so unique and powerful. And for this new world, we need new kind of relationship tools. But of course, we cannot look in the future without looking back and understanding what has worked for us before and how we can sit on the shoulders of giants who have done research, who have done scientific work to understand how we can move the relationship dynamics, how we can move the relationship intelligence, and how we can create families that are love-rich and blame-free. Because my mission is to help create violence-free and love-rich families and individuals. And together we can create the economies and the future of the world that is much better. And I think this is the most potent time. So if you're watching this, if you're hearing this, I would like to honor and ask you to just check in with yourself. Maybe close your eyes and ask yourself this question. What do I want by the end of this hour? What is my intention? Why am I here? And how can I turn this time that I'm dedicating and bringing myself, my body, to this space to learn, to gather insights, but also to be a little bit open for something that maybe I haven't noticed before. And as you just gather in these intentions, I would like to start sharing the presentation. Okay. So, can you see my slides? Or not yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
You need to open it in your, first, you had it open in your screen.
Yep.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay. So welcome to the honest conversation. The key is under this mat. And then how do I...
On the bottom. On the bottom is the change of...
Okay, see.
There.
So this is a little bit about me. As you said, I come from Siberia. This is my Russian family, my parents and our little boys, Dmitry, Nikolai, and my husband, Alex, who's working upstairs in my office. And I had to find another corner to have this conversation with you. This is our dream world currently. This is what happened before. It's my part of my Greek family. He's Greek. And as you can see, there are many more of us here, and a lot of wonderful Greek food. But of course, for now, we are all sitting in our houses and figuring out how we can get the relationship work and maybe some insights for the future tools. As I said, my mission is to create congruent, love-rich, blame-free families and individuals, and that's why we are here. I've worked with executives and managers from some amazing companies, as you can see on the screen, from corporate world to non-profit organizations, and we support orphanages in Siberia and some organizations in Nepal with this work, because what we do is systemic, meaning that we look at a person as a system, where they come from, rather than just their cognitive ability. These are some of the photos from the workshops. They are very experiential as well as psychodynamic. So we use our bodies to move, and I will explain how we do that. But this is just a taster of some of the work that is based on a system I call Enrich. This is something I designed, and it's based on the book, international bestseller, the Enrich Your Relationships, 10 Secrets to Rekindle Your Intimate Life, as well as the program online for the relationship dynamics. It has also 6 modules, as well as Facing Reality and Set the Basics. So I've seen a lot of couples through these online tools, through the book reading, through the workshops, and through the retreats. And what this framework is, it looks at 6 points: explore versus routine, how we explore who we are and what we find about ourselves; how we nourish versus deplete our relationship; how we respond versus react to stress; how we can imagine versus using our willpower, because Einstein said imagination is much more powerful than will; how we learn to communicate versus assume certain things. As my friend said, assumptions are the mother of all fuck-ups. I'm sorry for my English. But how do we learn to communicate? And then how do we embrace the power of hugs and humor versus withdrawing? So first, we always start with ourselves. So how do we explore who we are? How do we nourish ourselves? And there's a lot of talk now about meditation, about mindfulness, about exercise, about healthy eating. But most importantly, how do we respond to our emotional needs and emotional cues when we build up our emotions? And, it's like going to the shower. We go every day or every second day to clean our physical body. But what do we do to clean our emotional body? How do we release our emotions in a way that is conducive, that is helpful, rather than bottle up and then like a heated bottle with bubbles? So this is a very important skill that we're going to talk about today, and for you to also start considering learning if something, for example, I have realized during this lockdown that there's more work to be done on learning how to respond. I've never spent so much time with my husband ever in my life, and I've never spent so much time with my children, homeschooling them, doing the work in the afternoon and the evening, and helping them and being all together and enjoying this amazing time as a family. But at the same time, because of the different cultures, because of the different backgrounds, how do we learn to respond to stress? And that goes back to our family of origin, which we'll talk a little bit later. Now and of course, second layer is to start with our partner. And if you don't have a partner, how to choose the right partner. It's a little piece of work to do, choosing the right partner, or understanding our partner's needs and learning how to respond to them in a way that to meet them in that place where they are. And using hugs. This is one of the recommendations that I will talk about. Virginia Satir used to say, we need 4 hugs a day to survive, 8 hugs a day to have a good life, and 12 hugs a day to thrive. Now, how many hugs do we have per day now? And it goes in correlation with our ability to trust, with our ability to connect with our body. We can even hug ourselves. And there are so many interesting somatic research in the area. When we just hug and stroke ourselves, it allows us to create more oxytocin, the hormone of trust. And in that, we can relax more. And, I get my hug pill from children. I hug them all the time. And I go and I say every hour, to my husband, in between calls, I go and hug, because this is the natural medicine we can prescribe to ourselves now. And it's all available. And we just forget sometimes how important and simple this is. Okay, normally, if we were to have a workshop together, I would ask you to explore and find a partner, but you could do it at home. And with your partner, tune into your breathing, because our regulation and vagus nerve and our sympathetic and parasympathetic systems are switching on and switching off based on how we're breathing. Now, if you take a big belly breath and start relaxing your tongue and start lowering your gaze and start smiling a little bit and keep breathing. If I measure you in an MRI scan, or if I measure your galvanic response or heart rate variability, there will be changes physiologically, biologically, and psychologically, because you would allow your parasympathetic system, which is a relaxing sort of effect system, to start ruling your body, meaning that your shoulders will go down. You will start taking deeper breaths, maybe some tingling sensations in your body. And the idea is, when you do that with your partner, especially if you or them are stressed, you can help each other regulate emotions on the spot within 2-3 minutes. This is a powerful exercise you can do with children or with anybody, with yourself too. And notice the feelings and insights when you do that. Because a lot of the time, because of the mirror neurons that are in our body, that we feel how the other person is feeling in that moment. The one who has a stronger core, the emotion that is calmer, can help the other. There's a scientific research by Dr. Johnson, who did the whole emotional connection research by holding each other's hands with a significant other. It's like soothing emotional pain. And by being close to each other and breathing together, we can connect on a deeper level. Simple, but so powerful. Now, I would like to share little bits about relationship intelligence. And we all know we are all children grown big, so we all have what we had when we were children, now in different form and shape, of course, as we are adults now. Virginia Satir used to say, problems are not the problem, coping is a problem. And she was the mother of family therapy, as we know it now. And it's true that when we talk about our problems, especially in the work of couples and families, the first problem that couples come up with is almost never the real problem. So I would invite you to dig a little bit deeper when you have your conversations and when you sort of come up with the last straw is broken and last drop, and it's just you're fired up and you want to share something and like, this is not the problem. Ask yourself, what is behind that reaction? What is your coping? What is the real problem? And that, of course, goes to our child attachment. And if you have heard of child attachment, if you haven't, I just would like to share a few notes. So generally, there are different types of attachment as we grow, and that's research of Bowlby and Ainsworth. You can Google it. There's so much research about this area. Now, why is it important? Because what we notice in adulthood, we live a very good life until the stress hits so much that our sympathetic system, the flight of fight reaction, starts kicking in. And that's when it becomes obvious to us that we turn to our patterns that we have learned to cope with stress. So if, for example, the parents, when we were growing up, were very secure, meaning that they had discipline, but also love. They loved us in a way that created our high self-esteem, and the attachment was secure. That means we can trust fairly easily in our life, in relationships. We interpret things very positively. We express emotions positively, and we communicate easily. Now, that is a very little percentage of people generally around the planet. Most of us fall into three other categories. One of them is the anxious attachment style, when the view of ourselves is negative, when the reactions can be aggressive, when positive view of others is changing, and points of view, that's a bit of thing. So we are sort of dependent, and we are dependent on the point of view of others. Or fearful, when we fear rejection, when we put others on pedestal, and then we feel so disappointed, and then we feel not good enough, and we communicate negatively. Or avoidant, when we don't know how to be intimate, when we don't know how to create a long-term relationship with a partner, when we don't know how to express feelings, and we struggle to communicate well. Now, some of the examples of secure attachment is, I love you and I know that you love me and life is good. And there are very few of us who consistently feel that under stress. When we really push our boundaries, when we're maybe angry or hungry and ill, or children are ill, or there's stress and a transition at work, it's a very, very delicate place to be. And that's when we can see, if it's a secure attachment, fantastic. Keep doing, because the likelihood that you will succeed in life and have a happy relationship is very high. But if you think, what do you think of me? I depend on you a lot. Say that you love me and I will feel better. And say that you love me almost every hour, every time I see you. Tell me again and again. This is a bit of an anxious attachment style. Fearful example is, you're too good for me. I don't deserve much. Can't get you close to me. I will feel hurt. This sort of like, I'm in my cocoon and I'm a bit scared to get you too close to me. And avoidant is, I knew I couldn't trust you. I'd better be by myself. And this is when we see a very successful person. A lot of them are women who get high in the hierarchy and they don't want to get into a relationship, or men as well. But as we're talking about be women, and I work with a lot of successful women who have this avoidance style. And when we look into the attachments and how they learned these patterns with their parents, it becomes obvious to them that this is something to look into. Okay, so if you want to find a partner, this is for those who don't have partners. I just go briefly through this part. It's important to know that there are 4 different groups based on our biological predispositions of partners. One of them is called explorer. One of them is a builder. One of them is, we call them director, and then a negotiator. So an explorer is generally a dopamine circuitry in our brain. This research based on a Dr. Helen Fisher, the world-renowned anthropologist. If you would like to know more, her book Anatomy of Love, or Why Him, Why Her, are bestsellers, and they give the background. She was the one who did the algorithm study for the Match.com and Chemistry.com, and actually the Match Group sites that it's an industry of $3 billion now. And she was the main researcher who did the study to understand which groups of people connect with which groups of people better, so we can match each other, but also understand if we are in a relationship with this kind of a person who has a dopamine predisposition. They like risk, they are adventurous, they're travelers, they are unpredictable, they're spontaneous, they are super creative, talented, energizing, curious, storyteller, and interesting people. Now, the second category is the predisposition for the serotonin circuitry, and we call them builders. So they're more reliable, loyal, predictable. They're careful, stable, risk-adverse, traditional, law-abiding, practical, fantastic financial people, lawyers, engineers, family-oriented, safe, and financially secure. The third category, we call them directors. These are types of, I would call, predisposition in the brain. Type is a very categorical name, but these are predispositions that have testosterone circuitry in a leading role, okay? So they are very ambitious, forceful, they love making decisions, clear, concise, direct, successful, in great managers, analytical, powerful, and dominating. They love dominating, love to outsource decisions, and they love people to report to them. They're tough, critical, and highly managerial. And the final 4th group, called negotiators. These guys and girls, they have the estrogen circuitry as a leading hormonal predisposition. They're very much harmonizers and emotional, empathetic, sensitive people, open, kind, hearty, flexible, supportive, caring, reflective, fantasizing, and harmonizing. So think of Bill Clinton and Hillary. It doesn't need to be a man or a woman. It was actually Bill who was crying at his daughter's wedding, not Hillary. So Bill is a typical negotiator type, whereas Hillary is very much the director. Now, guess which group connects with which. So for example, for an explorer, who is the best match for an explorer? Now, the best match for an explorer is an explorer, and the best match for builder is builder. So this goes like the similarities attract. In these cases, it's true. So we meet on the basis of our similarities, and we grow on the basis of our differences. And it's very rare that we actually, if we forming relationship, and my previous relationship was, I was an explorer and he was a builder, and it didn't work out. But for example, my friends, they are explorer and builder, and they're still together. So it's not like, okay, it's impossible to be together. It just takes a little bit more effort and work to do. And we need to face this and understand what kind of partner we are with. Now, interestingly, for the director, the best match is a negotiator, and vice versa. For negotiator, the best match is director. So think of those as signposts. Okay, who am I? Am I more explorer, negotiator? And that means if I'm looking for a partner, my best match would be explorer, director. And that's what actually happened in my case. Alex is explorer, director, and I'm explorer, negotiator. If you want to understand, there is a test called the Anatomy of Love. You can check what is your predisposition, and you can ask your partner to do that test. So it's going to be easier to do the match, but also to understand how you can work with each other. Obviously, if your partner wants to stay at home and have a cozy serotonin kind of moments in Denmark, they call it hygge. It's like, have a cup of tea, have a fireplace and cuddle, versus an explorer who wants to go and travel and they're anxious because they cannot go now during the COVID time. What kind of conversation can you have? And what kind of questions can you ask yourself? Meaning that, okay, so where would you like to go when this COVID is over? Or, how can we create this cozy environment together, maybe on Friday night or Saturday? When is the right time for us to have that kind of connection? Another piece that is important in the relationship dynamics is understand our partner's needs. And I call it the ladder of needs. So we all have this. We all have the need for security, variety, stability, significance, love and connection, development or growth, and contribution. But at different times of our life, we have one that is the most important. And that also happens in our partner's head. Which is the most important need that you have at the moment? Is it stability? Is it variety? Is it being important, significance? Is it connecting and having that love with your beloved or family members? Is it to grow, without which you don't care about others as much as that particular one? Or maybe contribution and growing others. Now, this is a whole topic to explore, but one of the most profound discoveries for couples is to identify the top one and then have a conversation about it. Now, as we're having a conversation about our needs, what is important to remember, our relationship is like riding a bicycle. And imagine we're riding a road of life. And we have two wheels. So one wheel is our own physical, emotional, mental needs, but the other wheel is our partner's needs. So we cannot actually ride a bicycle when one of these wheels are not fully expanded and the tires are totally full and solid. If the tires are weak and the wheel is not really properly working, if some of the elements are falling apart, it affects the whole journey. And that's similar to relationships. We're not just stand by alone. We are in total connection with our partner. So realizing, understanding our partner's needs and finding ways to satisfy them is a common goal of riding this bicycle easily. Now, emotional intelligence and relationship intelligence are important. And Einstein said, we cannot change the system being inside it. So how can we find these tools that help us to look at our system from a different perspective? And that's why we have these seminars, workshops, we go to different people's workshops to find out new tools to see ourselves from a different perspective. Now here I would like to share with you very practical tips based on the research. So one of the research that I am in love with is by Dr. John Gottman and his institute in Seattle, where they take couples and newlyweds into kind of a B&B style for a few days. They take all the tests, saliva, blood, galvanic response, heartbeats. They take all the measurements from the video cameras, like the muscles movement and emotion expression, and they monitor this. And then afterwards they take the measurements, and then it's been more than 20 years they did the research. So what they found out, there are many things they found out, but one of the things that I love, and also in line with the research of Barbara Fredrickson and Sonia Lubomyrsky on happiness, how couples can connect. John calls it, and he's, by the way, a professor of Washington University, so he's a very well-known, renowned, and you can Google him. He's got TED Talk about the results of this study. They found out that if couples start conversation for the first 3 minutes, they can predict up to 90%, predict whether these couples would stay together or go apart. And these 3 minutes are all about little bits. So they were looking at the lake, and the husband would say, "Hey, look how nice the boat is." And the wife would say, "Oh yeah, well, take the rubbish out." That's a negative kind of bidding. It's a negative response. Or a wife would say, "Yeah, it's a boat. It's a neutral." And then another would say, "Oh, honey, do you remember the time we were on a boat?" Or, "Oh, I'd love to just pack everything and go on a boat with you. Maybe when the COVID is over, we could do that." That's a positive kind of interaction. So they've noticed that the couples who stay together, and now they're teaching the couples to stay together using this, is the ratio of 5 to 1, 5 positive interactions to 1 negative. Meaning that it's not, if I say something critical or blaming, and then I say something nice, that's fine. No, I need to compensate for each negative interaction 5 times more positively than I normally do. I mean, it was a bit of a shock for me when I found it out, because I thought the relationships could be, if I double it, let's say I say something, twice positive than the negative, it would be okay, but it's not enough. So think about it, how many positive interactions on average you have with your partner during the day, or even with your children. And you will notice for sure that if you have a lot of 5 to 1, at least 3 to 1 ratio, at least 3 to 1, with your children, where you have these interactions, the relationship will be fantastic. With partners, same. At work, I mean, it just governs our relationship ability of relationship intelligence, because it allows the vagus nerve, the main nerve that goes from the top of our head to the bottom and connects to all internal organs, to relax, and parasympathetic system to activate, because we start feeling like, okay, I feel appreciated, I feel validated, I feel enriched, I feel nourished, and there is no threat, I can trust. This is what happens with the 5 to 1 ratio. That goes hand in hand with hugging. As I already shared at the beginning, hugging is a powerful tool for our oxytocin to grow, especially for children. They regulate, we have our hug therapy when I say, are you, I'll share later the red zone. Are you in the red zone? Okay, let's hug. 12 hugs a day. Note it down. If only one thing you can get from this presentation is to have 12 hugs a day. Then smiling. I would like to share just three different researches about smiling. First of all, smiling is argued to predict the length of our life. I mean, believe it or not, there was a research done by Abel and Kruger on the baseball cards, photos, that they found out that the span of a player's smile could predict the span of their life. And the average, the person was living on 72.9 years, while players with beaming smiles lived on average 79.9 years. I mean, believe it or not, but there's a research on that. The second interesting research was by Leanne Harker and Datra Keltner in the UC Berkeley. Over the course of 30 years, they examined the smiles of students in an old yearbook and measured their well-being and success throughout their lives. And by measuring the smiles in the photographs, the researchers were able to predict how fulfilling and long-lasting their marriages would be and their general well-being and happiness. So the widest smilers consistently ranked the highest in all of the above. And the third interesting piece of research was about smiling compared to chocolate and sex. Smiling stimulates our brain's reward mechanisms in a way that even chocolate or sex, well-regarded pleasure inducers, cannot match. In a study conducted by Packard in the UK, British researchers found that one smile can provide the same level of brain stimulation as up to 2,000 chocolate bars. They also found that smiling can be as stimulating as receiving up to 16,000 pounds sterling in cash. So here you go. It beats money even. And that's available to us every day. Now, the fourth tip I would like to share, I call it the traffic light theory. And that's what we do every day with our children, and it works perfectly. So think of it as when it's especially helpful for those who don't know how to express their emotions. Because often we sort of go about around the house and we don't know where the person is. So when they fume or when something happens angrily or sad, we actually get a bit surprised. Why? Because some people are very good at poker facing their emotions. So instead of sharing emotionally, how you feel, why don't you say, okay, I'm in a green zone, it's fine now, or I'm in a yellow zone. Yellow zone means I need some time out, I need to be on my own. Otherwise, I'll get to my red zone, which is not a pleasant one. I get very angry in my red zone, or I get very teary, and tearful. You have different coping strategies. So using the traffic light theory, you can agree with your partner or with your family members that this is the signpost for you to do something. So with children, we know if it's a red zone, we hug. If it's a yellow zone, we do the timeout so we can sort of cool down, okay? Because when it's a red zone, it's very hard to switch the sympathetic system to parasympathetic system. It's like, hanging on a cliff. Imagine you're hanging there, and then you go to the red zone and you lift your fingers and you go down, and there's no way to stop until you hit bottom rock. And that's when very little helps. You can breathe, you can disconnect, but hugging is the best tool. So this is very, very tactile, and it's claimed to be and we use it and it works. So take it on board. And the final one is exploring your family dynamics. This is one of my favorite ones because it goes back to that attachment, but it also goes back to generations before. You see, we are 40 to 50% nurture, 40 to 50% nature. Some argue 70-30, but we have both. We have 30% of our mom, 30% of our dad, and 40% our own. But we need to navigate through the family dynamics. And I've got a few slides on that, but I'm also aware of the time. So let's see how we're gonna go through that. It's part of our enrichment program, the Neuroscience, Communication, and Body Work. And these are stances. So based on the work of the family therapist, Virginia Satir, there are 5 stress stances that we go into when we are under stress. And also I've created the 5 flow stances that can help physically shift our emotions to a better state. And that goes hand in hand with a research by Amy Cuddy, The Power of Body Language. And you can Google, she's got a fantastic TED Talk, almost 50 million views, and she explains the science behind it. But here, just to give you a little taster, and I can share more information about this. It's a fantastic piece of research. So the first one is called the blamer, is when we blame the other person or the other situation, and it's all about fighting, and the need is, I feel not safe, I need peace and I need protection. It's very much testosterone-led stance, and physically it's like that, you see it on the screen. And then the counterbalance I call it the peaceful warrior. If you lift your hands, it's like a yoga pose, and I become the peaceful warrior. The actual physiological changes in the brain are fun. It's fascinating. So from the testosterone, we add a bit of endorphin and we can relax. So from blaming to peaceful warrior. You know, I sometimes go to the toilet when I'm very angry, and I do this for 2 minutes. I change my mood completely. The next one is the opposite, called the placator, governed by the estrogen hormone. It's all about begging, and you know, I take the blame on me. Please forgive me. I'm the guilty one. You know, I'm not worthy. And the need is to have some strength, to have some stability, loving, and care. And the counter pose is called the power tree. It's like, you know, you can stand up and feel how it feels when you do that. It's just phenomenal how even 20 seconds can generate the bodily response physiologically to come down and also to grow that confidence level. Some people who are very familiar with a placating stance can become stronger by changing their physiology. The third one is called super reasonable. It's very familiar for men who are in professions like legal profession or accountancy, or women as well. So it's all about monologue, and it's subdued hormone serotonin, and it's all about critique using facts and using sort of facts and figures. But the need is to have some understanding, acceptance, and wisdom. And the counter pose is humble monk. It's bowing down and bowing your body physically to get that feeling of humbleness, if you can. And again, try it just for 20-30 seconds to sit like a computer without any emotions and bow slowly. And you notice the difference in your body. The fourth one is called distracted. It's like a person having 3 hands, like, oh, hello, you know, how was your day? How, you know, would you like a cup of tea? They don't like to talk about the tough bits of emotions. And it's all about distracting, adding chaos, and the hormone dopamine releasing sort of like excitement. And it's the needs are for harmony, stability, and courage. And the counterbalance physically is called core harmonizer. It's standing like in a Tai Chi pose and feeling that stable core. And the final one is called withdrawer, is when a person doesn't talk at all about the issue. They sort of turn their back on the issue. The hormone oxytocin, so it's a very much huggy one, but it's withdrawing as well. So moving away, but the needs are to be touched, to be open, and to trust. And the counterbalance is the world hugger, when we turn to the world and imagine we're hugging everybody and opening our chest, opening our shoulders, and feeling how it feels in that stance. Okay. So that's in brief in terms of my tips and tricks using our body, using our cognition, based on the research. I'm happy to provide all the documents if you want to learn more about this research. It's a fascinating field. And of course, the trick is in the practice. How can you make these learnings, 5-to-1, hugging, traffic light theory? How can you remember your stances and search and do more work into your family systems, your attachment styles, and the trends, the patterns that been traveling with you through your life, and maybe even beyond your life, through your previous generations, your parents, your grandparents. And working and doing this work for yourself can help you create better relationship with your partner, better relationship with your children, and with everybody involved. So now I would like to open the floor to questions, if we have any, and then have a bit of a discussion.
Excellent. This was really very, very inspiring, and so many tools you've given us to really improve ourselves. Now, in your personal experience and in your professional experience, I'm sure you encountered many types, and you're giving us the best of the best. what are the tools to actually incorporate like the smiling and the hugging in your daily lives, and how do you create reminders of these things, and what do you do to really put them into practice?
It's a great one. It goes back to creating a habit and also breaking the routine. So if you notice, and we generally do that, we do not smile with people we know, meaning at home, as much as we smile with people who are new to us. So we forget to smile, to hug. It's kind of a basic thing. So how do we turn that into a habit? Well, the research says that we need 21 days to break the bad habit, and we need around 60 to 70 days to establish a new habit. And the best thing to do is, if you want to develop a new habit, is to connect a little step of this new habit to the already established routine. So for example, every time I go to brush my teeth, I look at myself in the mirror and I smile, and that's how I start my day. Every time you can connect to the established routine. So every time I have a cup of tea, I remember to hug, and you decided with yourself what you're gonna do, and just one. It's the same for athletes, or the same how you break the routine to start an exercise, for example. Every morning, not like, I will do this 4 times a week, and you end up doing nothing. You need to connect little step. For example, putting your trainers next to your bed in the morning, and as soon as I put my foot on the ground, I jump in those sneakers, or I jump on my trampoline, or two little bits. One is the established routine, one is the new habit step. So if you want to hug or smile, the easiest way is to say, as soon as I notice how I breathe, I start smiling. As soon as I notice my partner, I welcome them with a smile. As soon as I see my child, whatever happens, I hug them. And connecting these two will make a little miracle. So we have a little practice called chat with my husband, Alex. We call let's have a chat. So chat, C stands for connect positively. So I love hugs, so he hugs me. Let's have a chat. We know he's gonna hug me. Then H in chat, hold negative. So I tell him, is it a good time now? I would like to share something negative with you. And he's like, okay, all right. And then I just vent. And after I share the appreciation, then I vent. And then the third one is A, appreciate. He says, okay, well, I really appreciate that, you're sharing this with me, because we increase intimacy with that. And then last one, H, hug. Chat. Last T, touch, and trust. So we touch, and that's how it creates a natural sort of rhythm. So these are little steps that you need to break down the big thing that you want to do more of, and connect with the established routines in your daily life. Make sense?
Yeah, amazing. So this is really, maybe we should stop the share so they can see you when you answer these amazing questions. Sure. And so this is really amazing how to create habits, daily habits, to notice your breath and then smile, to brush your teeth and smile, to drink a cup of tea, and maybe hug yourself. So
yes, and these are little bids for yourself. What John Gottman researched with couples, but we also have the same thermometer of our relationship with ourselves. So if we start a day with a bit of simple wins, like a smile, like a hug, we rarely hug ourselves, to be honest. We only do it when we have to do our exercises, if any. But these are widely available, and we don't need anything apart from remembering them and knowing how much they influence the whole trajectory of our day. If we start a day with a little bit of 2 millimeter difference, the end of the day will be huge different. a huge difference. So how can we start making and implementing these little changes in our everyday life by breaking the habit and keeping it for 21 days? I think the best thing is to commit with somebody else, agree with your partner, with your children, as a family unit, as a family forum, to do that, and do it for 21 days and see what happens.
That's great. That's great. And you also mentioned a few times the mirror neurons we have in our brain. And I know there was a scientist that got a Nobel Peace Prize from that. And what can you expand a little bit more about how they work and how do they really affect our relationship when we are with somebody, our mirror neurons and our learning habits?
This is a wonderful piece of research, but also there's a whole area called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, that's built partly on how do we pace and then we lead. So the mirror neurons, actually not in our brain, they're in our guts most of the time. The gut area and the whole stomach area is as clever as a cat's brain. It has that many neural connections. So imagine our intuition and our empathy is kind of, here. So what happens is, in order for us to feel something and understand the other person, we need to first create that image or that sensation in the body, in ourselves. And that's how films work, that's how empathy works, that's how our connectivity, and by the way, we also know that that's how something doesn't work, like when people are psychopaths, they don't have that ability. People who have issues with relationship in relating to the emotions, they have, there's a whole research in microbiome and the neurology of the guts, which is a very interesting area now. I think that's going to be the future, the energy, the quantum, neurolinguistic connection, and the morphogenetic field, the research by Rupert Sheldrake. But the mirror neurons, literally how they work, we have neurons, receptors, that activate themselves when whatever happens around us trigger us. So in order for us to understand, for example, if a person is sad, we need to experience that sadness. If we start smiling and we start feeling happy, the person who sees us, their mirror neurons will get activated. And that's how they get this contagion of happiness, as well as the contagion of unhappiness. We always influence each other, no matter what. We cannot not. This functionality is involuntary. So we constantly influencing each other. That's why they say, be careful who you're surrounded by. Watch who your friends are. And a lot of people say, tell me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you will become. Tell me your 5 people who you're connected to most often. These will influence you. It's so important and engraved in our biology that we cannot help experiencing that. So if you want more smiling, more openness, connect with those people. And that's how your mirror neurons will start being activated even more, so you can experience more of what you want.
Wow, amazing. And I'm, out of this presentation, there are hundreds of other questions that we can ask, but we are practically at the hour now. So if you can tell us a little bit more about, you talked about habits, about mirror neurons, and if you can give us your wider vision of how have you dealt with the couples, and what were the tools that worked the best for couples in general for you?
Ooh, wow. We have 1 minute left. Laura, you're a master of questions. Okay, so the best tool for couples, that exercise at the beginning about breathing and looking into each other's eyes and breathing and tuning into each other's physiology, that is the most important tool because of the bicycle phenomenon, the theory that we're all connected. So we need to make sure that we look at our relationship as a system. And relationships, the partner is currently is representing that part of us that we want, or that part of us that we like, that part of us that we remember from our parents that we wanted, in that love, that connection, whatever that resource is. So embracing that, breathing through that. And there are so many tools. I mean, oh my God, connecting, touching. There's another called temperature reading. So the chat is a wonderful tool. How you can communicate by sharing first positive, holding negative, appreciating 5-to-1 ratio, and then hugging each other. That's probably the most basic, simple, but the most powerful one. I will not go into the others because we don't have time. But connect with me if you want to learn more. I've got the whole toolbox to share.
The greatest thing is that they're all free and available to everybody in seconds.
Yeah.
So what you're giving us is just amazing tools that as a humanity we might not be using. So maybe we should have a world campaign that people should hug each other or hug yourself at least every day. In my case, sometimes I try to say 3 things that I'm grateful every morning when I'm brushing my teeth. As a habit, so that I'm start the morning with my grateful. Sometimes I write them. And so on that note, if you want to give us some closing remarks, Darya, would be wonderful. And then we'll close the call in a few seconds.
Yeah, I think that we are now at the edge of waking up into the realization that we can use so much more of our resources available within us in relationship to each other, to create peace within, peace between, and peace among. And the future is bright, and it's going to be fully based on the power of relationships and how much enriching relationships we can create. Based on the Harvard Grant study, already 80 years, the longest research in the field of psychology, telling us that the happiness, success, and fulfillment all goes back to the quality of our relationships.
Wow, yeah, actually that's right. Even the quality of our relationships in our family and our businesses, if we can relate in our businesses as brothers and sisters, and that really makes the company very successful. And that's one of the recommendations that many people are saying now. If you need to become more selfless, more connected, more giving, and then we will thrive as a humanity. No, I think that's our next step post-COVID. I think that's the way to go. I know Robert there is smiling and saying, yes, I think that's the way to go. He's an expert in communication. So with that, I want to thank you, Darya. It's been amazing. I'm going to make sure everybody in the Be Women group and everybody listens to this call so that they can really connect with those few tools that are so important, like smiling, hugging yourself, and then building your relationships. We have a few webinars coming up, mostly in Spanish and English and Italian, and they are about well-being and health and eating habits. We have one on artificial intelligence and the importance of how we choose what is real information or fake information. That's something very important, especially in our life today. We have a webinar on meditations, one-on-one, and next week we also have a few on what matters, on who are we and where are we going post-COVID. So on that, I would like to thank you all, and I hope you all write in the next few seconds 3 things that this webinar brought to you. Because only when we write down what we're gonna change, or write down or send an SMS or do something, then change happens. So Darya, I think we definitely will write down smiling as much as possible, hugging myself or whoever comes around me, and then creating small little habits of that will bring our relationships to fulfillment.
5-to-1, remember? So 5-to-1 ratio of positive bids. This is also very important for relationships.
Yeah.
And breathing together, start doing that. Breathing together in bed. Oh my God, that has the whole new level of intimacy.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. I think that we have a long list of things to do, and I really thank you for this amazing presentation.
Thank you. No, the pleasure was
Thank
mine.
you so much.
Thank you for creating this space and sharing all this with people around the world. I love how you do that. So, Laura, thank you very much to you.